I had a pack back assignment today that I'd like to share my answer with y'all. Business class was on motivation. How do you motivate people? How do you motivate a team? How do you personally get motivated? And this the long of the short of my answer to the question. The basis of my understanding of the intersection between public relations and political science is that the immediate material needs of the populace is the most important factor across all boards that motivates all decisions made. This comes from my analysis of Maslow's hierarchy of needs that expands upon the same conclusion. Other needs play a role in motivation, but nothing stronger than the immediate material needs of people in the moment. Given that, and given that gasoline is quickly approaching $5 in Texas, insane, it is unfortunate that I relate that for me, the most important motivating driver within me is the need to cover my expenses. I spend literally all of my paycheck on gasoline every week, and that's because rely solely on my girlfriend's vehicle, not even my own. Given my recognition over what governs my personal motivation, as a middle class, incredibly privileged young adult who is lucky enough to both have a remote job at $12 an hour and have my college tuition paid for by my father, I'd like to relate that the only way I believe that we can motivate others, whether they be a team of employees or friends or even voters, poli sci major, is to address the most critical need that the entire country is facing, the hoax known as affordability.
You know, this whole thing is, they use the word affordability. It's a Democrat hoax.
It is scary and disheartening to see in real life my middle aged coworkers who have worked for my company for a decade being outright forced to move to another part of the country so that they might be more valuable to the company and avoid being another statistic in the massive 4 year long trend of layoffs due to consolidation and raising the bottom line despite record profits. My coworker's only motivator in that instance is a desire for financial stability, which means in the moment, completely destabilizing their current living conditions on faith of not getting fired later alone, moving to wherever my company tells them to move. Even financial opportunity here within Houston is limited based on affordability by both small business employers and government work alike, even if government work's limitations have stemmed from the explicit desire to lay off as many of the workforce as possible while still being functional. I have some good buddies in a local campaign staff here in Houston, and I applied to participate. It will mean a lot, both for my resume as well as my own sense of involvement, to be part of a progressive campaign that is looking to help lessen the affordability burden that Houstonians are feeling, even if the guy himself is pro AI, big L. In the end, the campaign related that as much as they appreciated my input and availability and connections and burning desire to participate, after the war in Iran started 2 months ago, they literally have no money available for anything besides gasoline. At the behest of Israel, the United States has set the global energy economy on fire, and it is being compounded onto the already devastating affordability crisis taking shape here in the richest nation on earth. And the economy isn't the only thing on fire. The only real motivator is money. This in turn means that the only leverage available to those who want to make an impact is the manipulation of finances. Iran took this into mind when they elected to close the Strait of Hormuz to begin with, in order to force the US's hand at restraining Israel's genocidal violence in the region. Hasn't worked yet. This is also the same motivating leverage that is causing warehouse employees across the country to burn down their place of employment out of frustration.
You know, we may not get paid enough to live, but these bitches dirt cheap. All you had to do was pay us enough to live. All you had to do was pay us enough to live. All you had to do was pay us enough to live. There goes your inventory.
All you had to do was pay us enough to live, was the phrase uttered by Jamel Abdul Karim, who recorded himself burning down a toilet paper warehouse in Ontario, California. The only way for a message to be received is through the damaging of financial capital infrastructure in the form of a warehouse. Since that act of anti-corporate terrorism occurred on April 7th, 5 days ago, there have been 4 other warehouse burnings and other comparable arson attempts across the country. The Ontario City Mall was almost set ablaze. Another warehouse in Bakersfield, California, was successfully set ablaze. A lumber pallet warehouse in Wayne County, Ohio, was lit on fire. A New Jersey chemical plant was victim to an arson attempt. And today, in San Bernardino, a Burtec facility warehouse was destroyed. All of this within 5 days. And this is just the arson, not the murder attempt of CEO Sam Altman involving a Molotov cocktail, or Indianapolis Councilman Ron Gibson's house getting aired out over his vote to build an AI data center within the city. Direct action specifically targeting the vectors of financial infrastructure is quickly becoming a massive response to the affordability crisis. And this random, decentralized violence is all motivated by the same thing as everything else: affordability.